Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the Three Man Weave, live here from Assembly Hall, 103-89. The Hoosiers even their record in the Big Ten at 5-5 with a win over the Iowa Hawkeyes. Probably the best offensive performance we've seen in 2012 out of the Hoosiers. Ball movement was unbelievable. 20 assists on 37 field goals. Win Thursday night, they only had 4 assists. And Will Sheehy was inserted in the starting lineup, hit 2 threes in the first 3 minutes. Tom Crean said after the game, he's not married to any lineup, I think was a quote that he used. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here in terms of Sheehy or Victor or what they do. But really the highlights of the game were the big guys not named Cody Zeller, even though Zeller only missed 1 shot. Connor talked a little bit about Derek Elston and the man that the student section loves, the Pritch.
I'll save the Pritch for Avi. I know he wants to talk about him.
No, you can delve into it.
But Elston really had a big game off the bench. Comes in, gets a big block on Zach McCabe, and that turns into a transition bucket. Then he gets 8 points in 68 seconds, 2 of which via 3-ball, which is rare to see out of Elston if you look at the way he shot the ball throughout his career. But really a big game for his confidence because he has been invisible offensively for this team in Big Ten play. Came in averaging 2.5 points a game in conference games and really had a big game tonight. Needed to have a game like that because he's critical for them going down the stretch. Crean calls him one of his 7 starters, and you know what? He hasn't played like one. Tonight he looked like he was part of the offensive flow in the way that you would have expected him to be after a couple of the games he had in non-conference play. So really important for him to have a game like he did tonight.
I think in the early portion of the non-conference, it did look like IU had 7 starters, and then that kind of went away. Will Sheehy was still that 6th starter, but Elston really hasn't done anything in about the past 10 or 15 games, but he came out tonight, had a big effort. Avi, Tom Pritchard, he took charges. He had dunks that will be on the highlight reels. I mean, he was very impressive tonight. And again, there's going to be games down the stretch where they're going to need Tom Pritchard's minutes, and tonight it's got to be a huge confidence boost for the senior.
I mean, it absolutely is. I mean, Crean even talked about in postgame that not only is this guy a crowd favorite, and that's kind of clear. That's something we can all hear and you guys can see on TV. But he's a favorite among the players. I mean, people really like to see Tom Pritchard be successful, and it's because the things he works on aren't the type of things that are normally going to show up on the stat sheet. He even talked about how Coach Buckley, Tim Buckley's working with him on 2 things: defense and rebounding. All right, and so he's not a real showy guy. He's not the type of guy that's going to draw a lot of attention to himself, especially coming off a bench and playing behind Cody Zeller, arguably the best freshman in the Big Ten. And tonight he played 13 minutes. Like you were saying, he drove 2 charges. Am I right there?
Yeah.
2 charges.
I thought it was more because of how active he was.
Exactly, exactly. And that's a great point to bring up, and because he was doing something every time he was on the floor. He had a steal in there, and of course the tip slam, which he even addressed. He said it's not his best work. Last year was a little bit better, but still counts for 2 points. And at the end of the day, to me, it's just great to see this guy as a culmination of his really rugged journey throughout the 4 years here in Bloomington. For him to get these type of games where he comes to a standing ovation. And the first line of my column tomorrow is talking about how there was a moment in the second half, I think at like the 9:30 mark, where Cody Zeller was subbing in and Tom Pritchard was subbing out. And the crowd rose to its feet. Why? It wasn't because Cody Zeller, the future of Indiana basketball, was subbing into the game. It's because one of these wily veterans, which has shown so much heart, was subbing out, and they were showing their appreciation.
Yeah, the crowd was great tonight. Tom Crean mentioned that after the game. Guys, I feel like the hype for Cody Zeller is at times too much, but it is unbelievable how good he is. Tonight he was 11 of 12. He seems to be in the right spot at the right time. 7 dunks, I want to say, is what he had tonight.
I think it was a little more.
I think it was 8.
Was it 8?
Yeah.
Fran McCaffrey, after the game, called him the best freshman big man he's ever seen. And this is a guy who's coached all around college basketball. He's the only coach in the nation to send 3 different schools from non-BCS conferences to the NCAA tournament, so he knows what he's talking about. But Cody getting those dunks, it was the guards. Verdell Jones, 9 assists, I believe, tonight, to go along with 14 points.
It's impressive.
To me, guys, IU's at their best when they're out and running. I think that is clear. They want to run, and they did on Thursday night. Tonight just showed why IU in the open court is where they want to get their offense.
They can't win a game like what they played Thursday night at Wisconsin. That is not the type of game that this team is going to win. I know Tom Crean talks about how IU has won. First thing he says in the press conference, IU has won 17 games in 17 different ways. Not really.
Right.
IU needs to be out and running. IU needs to be getting transition buckets. They got away from easy buckets in transition, exactly. And you know what? They got away from that during that losing streak. And they really weren't getting those up tempo baskets and those high percentage shots. But we saw it tonight. Cody Zeller had a huge game because of it. It seemed like every possession he was dunking again. And that was a product of
wide open dunks.
Yeah,
I mean,
wide open.
And one thing I want to point to though is obviously Cody Zeller's doing a good job of getting open, but that's his teammates finding him, guys. It's going to show up on the stat sheet that Cody Zeller had a great
11
game,
to 12.
11 to 12, 26 points. But look over here, 20 assists. Somebody's got to be feeding him the ball to get him these great
offs. I mean, Verdell's here, Cody's here, boom, dump off, easy dunk. And part of that's Iowa really not having anybody over 6'7" in their starting lineup. Aaron White was trying to guard Cody, and at times that was laughable today. Guys, last thing I kind of want to end with talking about Will Sheehy. Do you guys think we'll see him in the starting lineup against Michigan? He did not play the first time against Michigan. If you guys remember, it was a Thursday, the last game before break, I believe, or last home game before the students came back. He did not play in that game. Does he start Will Sheehy going up against a smaller Michigan team, or do you guys think Victor will be back in the starting lineup?
I think Sheehy has to start. I don't really think it's important in a sense of, it's not like you're saying Sheehy is better than Oladipo as an all-around player. But
Crean subs so much.
Yeah, exactly.
I will never understand it.
Yeah, Oladipo's shot is missing, and he can't make a shot outside of 5 or 6 feet. And until he gets that shot back, I don't think he enters into the starting lineup. I think Crean is frustrated with his offensive production. Even though he had 12 points tonight, a lot of them were in garbage time. And really, this is a guy that's struggling offensively. I know he brings a lot defensively to the table. Is a guy that is able to be a lockdown defender when he is on his game. But right now, he is just such an offensive liability that he hurts this team more than he helps them in some of these crucial games.
Does he start Wednesday?
I agree with Connor, and part of me wants to say, you take, is it Victor Oladipo's defense, or do you take Will Sheehy's offense? And I think just with Victor,
I think Will is starting to become more of that lockdown guy.
And he's got that bigger body.
Jordan Taylor a lot on Thursday night.
Yeah,
so I think that'll be interesting to see how do you want to guard Hardaway, because I think that is the big matchup.
And today we saw an immediate impact from him.
Right.
And I just want to hit on a few quick numbers here before we sign off. 4 of 16 from 3, and they score 103 points.
Who would have thought?
They don't live and die by the 3, which is really
51 points at the minute 16 mark of the first half, which is more they scored all Thursday night.
Yeah. Iowa shoots 79.2% in the second half. That's going to get overlooked, but that
it won't in the film session.
It's not. And the final thing is 20 offensive rebounds and 37 total.
I see you mentioned Matt Roth down there. Tom Crean said after the game that Tim Carl, IU's trainer, said he hasn't put more IVs in any player in his 31 years here. Roth did not play in the second half, I want to say. I think he only played 4 minutes the whole game, so it would be interesting to see, because Roth has really been that first guy off the bench, first guard off the bench, depending on if Will or Victor is starting. So we'll see if he plays on.
He missed 2 threes tonight, 2
wide
open threes, and kind of had to wonder. I wonder if something's up with Matt Roth. Sure enough, there was.
So Wednesday, the Hoosiers travel to Michigan. Michigan, I believe, coming off their lowest offensive output of the year today. I don't even think they got 50 points against Ohio State. Wow. So that'll be a big game. They are going. They want to even season series. And then Saturday, a game at Purdue. So we'll be up in Ann Arbor and in West Lafayette on Saturday. Hoosiers needed a big road win, and they have 2 great opportunities at their hands this week. So, for Avi Zalen, Connor O'Gara, I'm Kevin Bowen. We'll see you guys Wednesday. Hoosiers move to 5-5 in the Big Ten Conference.
Corey Barnett got a basket. Mark it down.